This is Formula SAE FastCast, the official podcast of the Formula SAE series. Hey guys, welcome to FastCast. I am Mike Sorg, the video and podcaster around these events here with Formula SAE. We have with us Kaley Zundel, program manager of Formula SAE. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
And of course, Ryan Good is with us, University Programs Coordinator of Formula SAE.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Good to have you back after your first showing on the podcast.
Yep.
And there's something else new. Ryan's not the only new one. There is a third event just added this year, and there's a lot of new going on north of the border here. So what's going on with Formula SAE North? Yeah,
so this actually started. This was obviously when we were planning our 2019 season. The Formula SAE North competition was not in our scope at the time. But this past year in 2018, I did attend the competition. Formula SAE ourselves, we had in 2017 technically, but we designed and developed our own energy meters for the electric class. And having some of the volunteers from Formula North working with us just on the on-sites volunteering types of roles, got introduced to our energy meters. So they had actually asked if they could borrow them in 2018. So we did make that happen. And as a result of that, both my EV Tech lead and I, we did attend the Formula North competition in 2018. Just to help with any type of support and just to see how the competition is run, as it was always our neighbor to the north. And while up there, I was proposed about taking over the leadership from the organization Formula North Inc. and caught me off a little guard, but I thought, it's really not a bad idea, especially if they weren't going to be able to continue with the competition. They get great attendance, and strategically for us, it provided me another venue, especially in the 2019 season, if we were going to be able to make that happen, another venue that electric teams could compete at, because we had. In the last 2 years, we've sold out of our electric class pretty quickly, partly because we only have a 30-team limit, just based on what we could handle at this moment. So I entertained the offer and worked with the board for Formula North. Actually, I've been working with them. Really working with them, I'd say we probably hit the ground running in July, because in May we still had a couple events to go through for the SAE series. And it started off a little slow, I think, but then it just sped up real quick. And it really came down to whether we were going to actually run the competition in 2019 or kind of hold off and wait for 2020. And there were a number of reasons why we just went ahead with 2019. One, there was interest, both from our side, and, we are lucky enough that we're still going to have a lot of the returning volunteers, event captains, and even the board members come and help us put this off, or put this on in 2019. So they already had their dates secured, so it kind of worked in our favor to do it. For us, throwing the budget, things like that together was a little bit out of the box for us, that short time frame, but we were able to make it work. And so we threw it in using their dates, which unfortunately is going to probably make us a little crazy, maybe, because Formula SAE isn't the only event our staff attend. Ryan will be going to a Baja competition in between Formula Michigan and Formula SAE North, and then going to Formula SAE North, where I will be going to Formula SAE Michigan, Formula SAE North, and then right on to another event literally that same week. Actually, Ryan is too, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're going to be going to a Baja event. So it's going to be really kind of crazy for us. With this being new to us, there's a lot kind of in limbo at this moment. We're definitely working hard to retain the volunteers that they had, as well as bring on some new volunteers. We're also, obviously, like I said, they had their dates secured already for the venue. So we are, for 2019, going to use the same venue. But it may not look the same as what they have done previously. One of the things that I believe they always had a similar limit of 45, but we sold out that limit of 45 this year and actually have a pretty long waiting list. And there is actually a little fear, I think, on my part that we're going to actually have all 45 teams on site. And we typically kind of plan for that 10-15%, dropout rate. And now with the wait list and things like that, in reality, we could have 45 teams, which will stretch that venue, I think, to its max. So, doing what we kind of do best, we kind of always try to plan for the worst case scenario. So we kind of want to plan for that to have exactly 45 teams on site, which means maybe we're going to give and take some of what the luxuries teams had previously had. Though it was a really great idea, they, previously teams were able to get both indoor and outdoor paddocks. This year for 2019, we may only see one location for paddocks, indoor or outdoors, and most likely going to be outdoors. And that will allow us to put some changes for the indoor facilities and moving more things indoor, and then utilizing the parking spaces that we have that occupied their paddocks and occupied the brake test noise area and occupied their dynamic event areas probably can allow us to expand on those areas, using them more for, the dynamic events. Maybe endurance will see more than 2 cars on track because the track has been able to be expanded. These are just little things that obviously the SAE staff were thinking about. We've made, since that 2018 event where this all got set in motion, we've made one trip up there to look at the venue. We have a couple meetings coming up here with the returning event captains to kind of deep dive into, okay, why did you guys do this? And did you guys try this? Think about this. Why did you not want to do it? And what are your thoughts on us wanting to do this? Like maybe this different direction. Maybe we have some thoughts that they haven't had, thought of before. So we're doing that. Ryan and I will actually be going back up again in January. He'll be getting to see the venue actually for its first time. And so we'll maybe come up with some additional changes, based on the venue site that I've already just had. It'll be exciting for us to do. I think one of the biggest changes maybe the students will see, or let's rephrase that, maybe they'd like to see is, so in Formula SAE series that we host both in Michigan and Lincoln, the past couple years have been utilizing a mobile scoring website that provided live results on, online, and tied to that was an app, and like all these neat little features that we've just been implementing over the last couple years. And because this is so last minute, and when did we open registration? Like mid-October or something?
Yeah, mid-October.
So registration had already been open and closed for the other Formula events when we opened this. And as well as just all the other CDS series, that this date that we chose to keep, quite honestly, because there wasn't a better time to put the date in our schedule for all the CDS series, it overlaps with another competition that that the CDS staff at SAE manages called Auto Drive Challenge. So we share a vendor for the mobile scoring and a lot of the equipment. So they will not be able to be at Formula North this year, which, we kind of have to plan around for now. And I know the organizers from Formula North, they had their workaround systems, obviously, and so we'll be exploring that with them and what we can do, what maybe we can utilize that they used. But in the future, we will definitely be seeing what we do at our other events at Formula SAE North moving forward. But we will still be able to utilize the Formula SAE app. We've just incorporated a Formula SAE North on that app. So teams, when you download the app, you do have to select your location. I think it automatically defaults to Michigan because that's the first competition of the season. So you just have to, scroll down for North or scroll down for Lincoln, whatever event. But we'll still be able to utilize that. So, similar to what Ryan said in our previous podcast on what's new, we probably won't have a student handbook for this event, but we're going to try to do some of the same other things that we typically do. We will still have an event guide that team members will get to have. We will still have the giveaway Chotsky that SAE does.
All of our documents will be under series resources.
Yeah, so the processes go the same. The teams now have the access to FSC Online, so all their rules questions go through there, all the document submissions, building the cost report, all that consistently flows now with the rest of the Formula SAE series. I mentioned we will be soliciting new volunteers as well as trying to maintain and the returning volunteers. But Martha Truss and Victoria Hewing, who are our corporate salespeople, they're already working hard at getting, additional sponsors on site, new sponsors. We have reached out to the sponsors who have been supporting in the past, and we've actually been getting great responses with the sponsors wanting to return. So that's good news, but I think one of the good things about SAE taking over the Formula North competition under our umbrella is, we'll be able to expand this competition in the future. Ryan and I are already talking about how we're going to grow it, when we're going to grow it, what does that growth mean for SAE, for the students, and, a new venue site is probably going to be for sure one of those items. So we're looking forward to that. That'll be interesting to start working on. I think it's going to be one of those trial and error years for us for sure. With Formula SAEs, being managed by SAE International, in Michigan and Lincoln, there are some high standards that we as staff have. I think there are definitely high standards, expectations from the students. So I guess, want to warn the students that though we will do our best to put those, especially the SAE standards that we have, and try to accommodate for many of the expectations we believe they have of us, there are going to be some areas where we're not going to be able to do that right off the bat. That first one being the scoring stuff. We don't know where we lie with the scoring yet, but SAE will still have, at least for endurance, we will still utilize the A and B system. So if the teams have their own transponders, they're fine. Otherwise, we will have transponders on site that we can use. Where the scoring, where we're currently investigating, I will say, on how to proceed with scoring of other dynamic events, or the acceleration skid pad and autocross where we use timing lights that SAE currently does not own. That is some of the equipment that we get through our vendors. Obviously, the different look, it'll be branded this year with Formula SAE North. I think there will be comfort, hopefully, for the students because they'll see some of the same returning volunteers. I know I'm looking forward to working with them. The way I look at it, they're the experts of this competition at the moment that we'll be working with as far as, leaning on them maybe a little bit by trying to make changes at the same time.
And considerations for new teams that would be maybe interested in this because it's now a Formula SAE event for going to a different country in Canada because many of the events have been in the States and probably a lot of teams have not had to cross over like a lot of our friends that do visit from other countries already.
Actually, so Formula, when the competition was run as Formula North, they actually had a great attendance from teams from the United States. Mm-hmm. They probably always had at least a dozen or more universities, in addition to, obviously, for many of the Canadian schools, it's their home turf. It's very easy for them to get there. I mean, internationally, like truly internationally, I would say, like off of the North American continent, I don't know if we'll see much increase with that just because, the logistics of transporting a vehicle and all that kind of stuff starts to come into play, especially when that vehicle may be used at an international competition that, there are, I can't even remember how many competitions that there are. So here in the United States slash North American continent, we now have 3 official Formula SAE competitions between Michigan, Lincoln, and now North. And we're branded as Formula SAE. Over in the UK and much of Europe, its competition is very similar, same rule sets for the most part, but it's just branded as Formula Student. So there are so many competitions over there now that literally there's one like almost every other week. So depending on if those students, when they're looking to compete there internationally, it really does affect when they come to our competitions, I think. So, because it's a large body of water they have to cover so to get here. But as far as the U.S. teams, I think we'll see. Actually, I think we have seen an increase of number of teams actually registered, or at least registered and on the wait list to go to Formula SAE North. And one of the things, now that SAE International is managing the competition, one of the things we want to look into is working with the Canadian Border Service Agency and trying to get some sort of agreement and letter that our students, our volunteers, and even sponsors can, cross the border carrying their equipment, their giveaways, their vehicles, try to get some kind of documentation that would maybe help them with ease getting across customs. Haven't had to experience it myself, obviously, but in talking to some of the teams and talking to some of the volunteers, it seems to be maybe hit or miss with who gets affected. So it was actually a suggestion from one of the volunteers who's been helping previously in Canada, but also is highly involved in our Michigan competition. So I thought it was a great suggestion. So we're definitely going to look into that because we are seeing an increase of interest both from volunteers and sponsors of coming into Canada. And, all of our sponsors love to give away stuff. So, crossing the border, they want to see if you're coming across with stuff, what are you bringing back of what you're bringing across, and they don't want you selling it and things like that. So this documentation will help with that. So that's maybe some expectation on the teams to be looking for. For the student teams specifically who from the US and Canada that are either registered or on the wait list, I know we got some emails with some unhappy teams because it is their backyard specifically and they weren't able to get registered. So a little bit about the registration process and how we ran that this year, how we chose to run it. Was it a perfect system? Probably not. But when this competition decided to actually happen for us, one of my specific philosophies of this competition, of managing these competitions, is we operate these so students have the ability to have this hands-on experience. I'm not so much worried from, the program manager side of if a team gets to go to 2 or 3 competitions. I care more about the teams getting to go to one competition at least. And we've had, with Formula SAE Michigan sells out 120 spots. I think this year sold out in less than 10 minutes. And we do get international teams coming over for that event specifically. And then Formula SAE Lincoln currently is 80 teams gasoline, 30 teams electric, and it is split up with registration. And electric sold out in 1 minute for 30 teams, and then we had 24 teams on the wait list. And then we put that restriction in between Michigan and Lincoln to allow for all the teams, who maybe are still trying to work on the design, the budget, know-how, all those type of things to get time to register. And, we had, I want to say it was like 46 or 64. I can't really quite remember the number sequence. The first day registered. And then before that 1 month restriction opened, I think we had 72 on the list or something like that. 70, 72, somewhere around there. We had very little, 10 max, where teams are duplicating between Michigan and Lincoln. But we kind of thought, long and hard about how to do the Formula North registration. And my options were either open it wide open, anybody gets to register, or maybe allow teams that are on the electric wait list for Lincoln Electric to kind of get a heads up and or not a heads up, but like, because they're not registered for any competition. So technically it worked for the gasoline teams too, I guess. Any team who was on a wait list that wasn't already confirmed in another competition, which benefited, honestly, most of the electric teams, allow them to register. There's only 1 week left of this restriction anyway. So it allowed teams who weren't registered and confirmed for a competition to register first. And so I think we got like 18 electric teams and I think 1 or 2 gasoline teams before that 1 week restriction opened. And this year we actually, because North came so late, we decided to exercise something that, 2020's competition for gasoline and electric will see, where we will no longer have the 2 separate registrations for like Formula Lincoln and Formula Electric. It's just going to be one registration, one location, one registration, and teams will have to select the class. And we did that with North this year, honestly, because we thought it was a perfect trial and error type of process for us. And we did run into a few hiccups.
Yep.
So Ryan had to deal with most of those, and I don't know. I think you got them all. You handled that process, so I can't really speak to that process, but.
Yeah, we did run into a few as we were going through it, and I believe next year, with the changes that we're going to be making, as Kaley mentioned, making Formula Lincoln and Formula Electric under one registration spot is going to help a lot of our teams. We did that with Formula North. I do know a few teams that were Formula SAE Electric accidentally registered under Formula SAE Lincoln, and by the time the correction was made, as Kaley said, you had 1 minute to make that correction. So I do know some of those teams ended up on the wait list. So we are taking in these issues that we are running into, and we're going to make corrections for next year to make it a lot simpler for all of our teams.
Well, looking forward to see how Formula SAE North goes this year, and it's kind of cool to see this expanding.
I will be definitely open to hearing from any teams who have attended, whether it was the 2018 year or 2017, I think this is maybe where I was going to before I went off on my little tangent. I tend to do that from time to time. For teams who find themselves on the wait list, don't freak out just yet. I mean, the competition's new. I'm not 100% sure how things were managed previously, but if you compete in Formula SAE Series, you know that we're very strict on our document deadlines, things like that. So the registration list will definitely be changing in the coming months, whether, teams have unfortunate incidents at the university where either something budget-wise happens, university space happens, vehicle happens, that unfortunately causes them to withdraw. We hate to see those situations, but they unfortunately happen. But then there's also the other unfortunate, issues where teams just, either whether it's a blatant disregard for the document deadline or they, just lack of testing, whatever the reason is, they missed the initial deadline, and then they missed the additional 10 days deadline, even with our couple reminders of submit your document, that if you don't get that final deadline, don't meet that final deadline, we do cancel you. So we have a lot of teams on wait list that, want to compete. And so we do try to make that happen. For those that are on that list, and say if you never get to register, we are always in need of experienced students come and work in the event. We're happy to have volunteers for that. And just the feedback. I would love to hear, maybe if you hear as we're planning things, as we're announcing things, pay attention to your emails. Ryan sends out monthly newsletters. We also post on the news feed. We post on the app. We post on social media. as you start seeing some of this communication coming out and, you have questions about things, or you want to point out something that, hey, maybe myself, having not been to the competition much, I mean, I did view it this past year in 2018, but I didn't work it. And maybe there's a volunteer that's not coming back that worked a specific area, and he or she is not there to give us that feedback that as a student you saw have feedback. I would love to hear that, actually. So, I mean, the competitions are here for you as the students. So, whatever feedback you can give us to help it make it better, obviously, if it's within our reason and our ability to do it, we do that. If you attended one of our Formula Michigan or Lincoln competitions, at the end of every competition is a post-event survey. So, definitely take the time to fill that out. We do read them. We try to pick out at least 3 pretty consistent issues that we try to work on to fix for the coming year. I mean, we can't fix everything, but we definitely try to at least fix the 3 highest consistent, feedback issues. So,
well, looking forward to it. Thank you, Kaley.
Woo-hoo.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep, thank you.
And you guys, we'll see you guys coming up. And of course, make sure you're subscribing to the podcast and all the lines of communication that Ryan's putting out there for Formula SAE, so you don't miss anything going in to the events. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to Formula SAE FastCast. As always, we want to hear from you, so email us at formulasae@sae.org. The show notes for this episode can be found at www.fsaeonline.com. Stay safe, and we'll catch you next episode.